Tough week last week. Tough week. Oh man, was it brutal. This is the Jake Brown podcast. I will explain right now.
Now, if any of you sons of bitches got anything else to say, now's the fucking time!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for tuning in. God, it is such a nice day outside in the good old Pacific Northwest. Man, I have always said there is not a better place on earth to live during the summertime. I feel like I need to add that in there. During the summertime, maybe like late spring, summer, early fall, there's no better place than the Pacific Northwest. I mean, we're talking like low to mid to upper 80s. We'll touch the 90s every once in a while. No humidity. Like, it's just awesome. Everybody's outside. I've already noticed so many more people getting outside and running and walking. Hey, is there a more psychopathic group than fucking people who run long distances? And I mean no disrespect to distance runners, okay? I was a sprinter. I ran track and field, even post collegiately. I ran track. Uh, I am not a distance runner, and when I look at some of the shit that distance runners do, as far as like weekly mileage, insane, insane. I'm not knocking it. If that's what fills your cup up, by all means, have at it. I've always said fitness for life. You find something that you love to do and just fucking do it, whether it's dirt bikes, running, swimming, golf, I don't know, basketball, boxing, whatever you love to do, you go and you do that. But is there another group that is crazier than distance runners? Like, they just torture themselves mile after mile after I can't do it. And I go for runs once in a while. I've run the most I've run in one stint is 8 miles. And it was awful. There was nothing that I enjoyed about that. Nothing. It just hurts. And I don't even run very fast. I'm just cruising at like a fucking between a 9 and a 10-minute pace. I'm just out there cruising, just alone with my thoughts. Maybe that's what I really don't like about it. Maybe that's what it is that I'm just alone with my thoughts. And then the voices start talking to me. Hard to tune those out. Yeah. Look, last week, last week was and I it was a tough week from a hobby standpoint. And I really shouldn't call uh these hobbies because I don't know, like they're almost more obsession at this point. This is how I get like when I find a sport or two that like I'm really into, like growing up as a kid, my sports. I feel like as a little kid you play all kinds of sports, soccer, you do baseball, I wrestled as a little kid. Basketball, like whatever. You do all kinds of sports and you eventually kind of narrow them down into, I mean, anymore, a lot of these kids are just doing one sport all year, which I think is absolutely terrible. You should at least be doing two sports at a minimum as little kids through high school. Like I understand, the need to focus on one sport, trying to get that college scholarship, blah, blah, blah. But it makes you a more well rounded athlete if you're at least doing two different sports. All right, that's my soapbox. I'm off that. My sports were always, football and track. You know, that's kind of where I decided to put my energy. And like anyone, I become obsessed with it. and because I want to be as good as I can be. And I found as I've gotten older, regardless of what my sport of choice is, and as I've gotten older, it's been, motorcycles have been my obsession. And, I really wanted to be good at road racing. Okay. And I knew like I got a late start. When I was like a little kid, we couldn't afford to get me a dirt bike. We didn't have, that kind of money to get into the racing scene, even if dirt bike racing is a lot less expensive than road racing, but it's still expensive, and we just didn't have the funds. So, when I started working and was able to make my own money and, determine my own budget and prioritize things that I wanted to spend money on. Uh, Motorcycles jumped to the top of that list real quick. And when I decided to get into road racing, I was all in. I was all fucking in. Okay. And it was rough at first. Like it's a tough, tough, tough sport because you crash, you break, you break your bike, you break, protective gear, you're constantly replacing things, you hurt yourself. I've had lots of injuries over the years, but eventually you develop, and I talked about this on the last episode, like you develop your style, your craft, we call it racecraft. You kind of develop how you do things when you're out on the track, and you learn your strengths, you learn your weaknesses, and you start to learn other people's strengths and weaknesses, and which causes you to try to mask your own weaknesses while taking advantage of other people's weaknesses. And then you play to your strengths and you try to prevent people from playing to their strengths. It's no different than any sport that, anyone does. You figure out what you can do well and you really excel at that, and you try to minimize the damage, from a weakness standpoint. And I feel like I from a club level, and I did race, some pro races in the AMA, way, it's been a long, 12 years ago now. But, I was able to get to that level and I was able to defend myself out there. And uh sure, I crashed a lot because that's what you do. You really want to push the envelope because you want to do as good as you can. Look, a little side note here. There is nothing cooler, and I will forever remember this. At Laguna Seca, even though I crashed out of that race, just that whole weekend of being there with the MotoGP people, and this is kind of nostalgic because my friend Mallory Dobbs, who is racing in the Women's World Championship, and she was just down in Austin doing a bunch of kind of correspondence type stuff, for her new race team. But MotoGP was there, and I remember what my first time doing or being in that environment was like. It was so much fun. It was such a kick in the pants doing that. It was so much fun. And seeing Mallory smile just was really like nostalgic for me, where I got to see like, my race idols, Valentino Rossi and Pedrosa, like these guys that, Davizioso, like I idolize these dudes, and it was such a cool experience to be able to be in the same paddock as them. We weren't really with them, they had their own separate area. Like that's the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, you know what I mean? And but I will always remember we got to do the track walk, before everything kicks off. Everyone's out just walking around the track, all the different teams, privateers, professionals. Privateer is essentially where I fall in because my own private team and I'm paying for everything. Just because I was at a pro event, I am not a professional racer. Okay. Nobody was paying me to be there. I was footing the bill for, my passion. But that track walk that we did, it was just so cool to see all those guys out there too with their teams walking around, bullshitting, talking. And, like, did I go up and talk to any of them? No, because, I want to act like I'm somebody, I don't want to just fanboy out like at the event, but hindsight, I kind of wish I would have went up and at least, shook hands or just said, "Hey, it's great to meet you," or whoever. But, like Valentino Rossi, you can't really get near him. Trying to get near Valentino Rossi is like trying to get near Messi or Michael Jordan, or he's on that level when it comes to motorcycle racing. Like he's a god. Okay, you don't just walk up to Valentino Rossi. That's just not the way it works. You don't just walk up to Michael Jordan. All right, you don't just walk up to Ronaldo. That's not the way things work. But hey, I got to, and then this is when he was with Ducati and he was struggling. But I still got to see him out there ripping around. I got to see Danny Pedrosa out there ripping around. Like it was such a cool experience. But back to what I was talking about, like you become obsessed with whatever. And I'm sure all of you out there listening, all seven of you out there listening to this, at some point have had some sort of hobby, whether sports or otherwise, where you become obsessed with it and you want to get as good as you possibly can. And sometimes I feel like it's really difficult to see and appreciate the gains that you've made because you're constantly looking forward at how much further you have to go and how much more you have to learn. And man, last week was a very, very, very frustrating week for me. From a boxing standpoint and from a riding standpoint. I did an enduro this past Sunday. And let me start with the boxing aspect first. You know, I I'm making improvements. Okay. I am definitely making improvements. But for me, as someone who is, hyper competitive, hyper obsessed, just wants, I want to be good at this, no matter what it takes. I know I'm going to get there. I don't know, maybe I won't get there. Maybe I will just not be good at boxing. Okay. Like that's always an option. And I feel like maybe I'm in denial about that. But hey, it's always a possibility. But I feel like, as is the case with any sport, if you commit to it and you're consistent with your training and you're disciplined, you are going to improve and you are going to get better. All right. So we did some sparring last week, and it's lighter sparring. We're still wearing headgear and and all that kind of stuff, and it definitely is not full on, full speed, full hard sparring. But hey, we're all competitive. We're all trying to get better. We're all fighting our own kind of internal struggles with with technique that maybe we're not getting right. Maybe it's footwork, maybe it's punch combinations, maybe it's defense. We're all fighting our own struggles. Okay, we all have things that we're all working on, while we're sparring each other. And I was really having a hard time kind of keeping things in perspective. And really, I was having a hard time not giving myself credit for the progress I have made. And this is something, what I'm about to say now, that I feel like is something that all novices, all rookies, all newbies into whatever your chosen hobby is, whether it's a sport, whether it's some sort of other, it could be fucking woodworking. I don't know. It could be whatever. Like, if you're going to constantly compare yourself to people with more experience, you are setting yourself up for failure. Right, and it is that simple. You are going to get so dejected, and you're gonna get so frustrated, and you're gonna be so down on yourself that you're not gonna recover, you're gonna get frustrated, and ultimately, you're just gonna wanna quit because you feel like you aren't making any strides. And I found myself doing that last week in between rounds where I'm watching like what Smoke is doing. I'm watching what LA is doing. I'm watching what Tank's doing. Okay. And I'm not at their level. They are all way better than me. But I look at them and in my own fucking batshit crazy head, I'm thinking, I need to be at that level. Okay. I'm thinking I need to be doing what they're doing. And that's a completely wrong way to think because I don't have the experience that they have. I don't have the fundamental base. I don't have the number of rounds that they have. I everything that they have, divide it by about 10, and that's the level that I'm at. Okay. And I was really getting frustrated with myself because these guys are making everything that they're trying look easy, you know? And then when I got in the ring, I just felt so awkward. I felt so clumsy. I felt a step slow. I felt like my range was off. Like everything that I was doing, I just felt like was off, off by a beat, off by two beats, you know? And fuck, man, I was getting beat up in there to a certain extent. But that happens. And at one point before my last round, Tank, he's great. He's one of the owners. He's an amazing boxer himself. He's the 147-pound Washington State Golden Gloves champ this year. Um, he's such a helpful resource. And he finally kind of pulled me aside and was like, dude, you're doing great. Look who you're in the ring with. You're not there. Keep things in perspective. Like he literally talked me down off the fucking ledge because I was getting so mental in my own head because I wasn't performing to some made up standard that one doesn't exist and two, I'm not capable of meeting at this point in my little boxing career. I'm not there. And I was really beating myself up. So to hear not only him say it, but Coach Vince said it, and then in talking to Smoke afterwards and talking to LA afterwards, it's like they're constantly reminding me, hey, just stay the course, keep working, your fundamentals, and you will improve. And you have improved. But I think that was the big problem is that I was so focused on what other people were doing, and I was so focused on what I'm not able to do that I've never really taken a moment to appreciate what I have accomplished, how far I have come, and the things that I am doing in the ring. All right. And by no means am I saying that I'm not even a good boxer. I'm a fucking novice. All right. It's been like a year and a month that I've been boxing. That's no time. That's nothing. And I get, like there are some people out there who are just gifted. Maybe they take to the sport, much quicker than others. I'm not one of those people. Like I'm athletic, but this is a whole new world. And I'm asking my body to do things that it's just not used to doing. And I'm struggling in a lot of aspects of the boxing game. I'm struggling. And it's normal. It's absolutely 100% normal to struggle. And I think it's that way with any sport. It was that way when I was a little kid first learning how to play football. It was that way with track and field. And I get track is just running, but the older you get with track and field, there's a lot more to it than just going out and running. There's the training aspect. There's so much plyometric work that goes into getting faster, the whole weightlifting aspect, your nutrition. Like there's so much that plays into you increasing your speed, running on the track. This all the behind the scenes stuff, and really this is the case with any sport. All the behind the scenes stuff. That's what makes all the difference. And I wasn't just taking, even if it was just 10 seconds, to appreciate what I have accomplished, acknowledge it, and then move on. And Tank did such a great job of kind of talking me off the ledge. It was a nice little needed pep talk, uh, just reminding me that, hey, you're not where they are yet, but you will be. Okay. Stay the course. You'll be good. And I think I really needed that. Um, I had another moment in my enduro. This was it was a timed enduro, which means that you every minute on the minute, a trio of people take off onto the course. Now there are, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 7 checkpoints that are out on the course. You have to hit those checkpoints within a certain time frame. If you're too early to the checkpoint, you get penalized points. If you're too late to the checkpoint, you get penalized points. So the object is to maintain consistent speed and then hit that checkpoint on time. And then, like golf, low score wins. So ideally, you want to end the enduro with a 0 score. Okay. My trio, two cool dudes, a younger kid, and then an old timer like me. And when we took off, okay, and I was the 18th trio to take off, so I took off at 9:18 in the morning. For like the first 2-3 miles, I felt great. And then I don't know what happens. And I'll say this about motorcycles, uh, especially in road racing. Front end feel is the name of the game. Okay. The better your front end feels, okay, so your front forks, your tire, the better feeling that you have in the front of your bike, the harder you can push into turns, the later you can brake, your trail brake better, you can control the bike easier, you can be more aggressive, with where you're putting the bike. You can fit your bike in small areas because you trust the front. And I don't know what happened in this race, but I lost all front end feeling in my bike. All of it was just fucking gone. Every time I pushed the bike down to turn, it felt like it just wanted to fall over. Every fucking time. And I'm plowing turns, like I go to make a turn and the fucking bike would just plow straight. So then I'm having to get on the throttle to try to turn the bike with the rear tire, which I'm not very good at that. Some guys are really good at that. I'm not. So it was the most frustrated I have ever been in any sort of motorcycle race. 52 miles of single track. Okay. So imagine a trail that at its worst is maybe 6 inches wide and at its best is maybe 2 feet wide. And we're in the thick trees. Uh, it was, you're not going fast. You're going anywhere from 3 to 10 miles an hour. And there's no rest. There's no fucking rest. There's nowhere to shake your hands out. Like a lot of times, you get a logging road here and there, and maybe you do a half mile on the logging road in between single track sections. Nope. I feel like we maybe spent 800 meters total on logging roads. That's it. It got so bad at one point that I was in some crazy fucking section, not being able to control my bike. And I remember this vividly. I tried to turn right and my bike just kept going straight. And I went right off the trail into some fucking bushes. I didn't crash. I didn't tip over or anything. I got off my bike because I had to kind of pull it backwards. And for the first time ever, at the top of my fucking lungs, I shit you not, I just screamed fuck as loud as I could. I mean, someone in a goddamn helicopter flying 2,000 feet above probably could have heard me. That's how frustrated I was when I just get off the bike and I'm trying to pull this fucking bike back out of these bushes and it's not moving and I'm on like a decline. So like my bike is super high up and I'm not tall anyway, but now I'm like even shorter, it feels like. And I just let it out. Fuck! Just lost my fucking mind in the woods. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I stood there for a second, took some breaths, drank some water, got my bike back on the fucking trail, and then was like, just keep moving. that's, that's all you could do. I have never wanted to quit a race so bad in my entire life, ever. Never have I really wanted to quit a race, you know? Like there's moments where like it gets tough and you just got to fucking grit your teeth and you just keep moving forward. But this enduro almost broke me. I got to one section where we hit a trailhead and they have a sign, short course to the right, long course to the left. And I hit that and I stopped and I looked at my odometer and I knew that I had roughly 20 to 25 miles left, roughly somewhere in there. At least minimum, I had at least 20 miles left. And for a moment, I thought, fuck it. Just do the short course. Just take the short course, get back to the truck, and fucking go home and just get high. Like it crossed my mind. It didn't just cross my mind. It was a loud voice in the back of my head just saying, quit, baby, quit. Now, did I quit? No. I fucking started my bike. I hung a left and I was like, fuck this shit. I'm finishing this goddamn race. And I did. And it was brutal. And my bike still handled like shit. And I'm sure it was something that I was doing, but in the moment, I couldn't fucking problem solve what was going on. I could not problem solve what was going on. And I think the frustrating part was I had just ridden so well at the Desert 100 where my bike just felt light. It felt agile. I felt like I could just place my bike anywhere on any path or trail. I could avoid all the rocks I wanted to avoid, and I had no problems. And at this enduro, it felt like I had like two 45-pound plates fucking strapped onto my handlebars. My front end just felt like a tank and I couldn't steer it. I had no grip, which then just wrecks your confidence because every time you try to do something, you feel like you're going to crash. And it was, oh, and my goggles continually were fogging up. Like my inserts, I have my prescription inserts from my goggles. There were times where I'm in the fucking thick of these trees completely blind. I'm trying to rip my goggles off so I can see because I couldn't fucking see where I was going. I'm not shitting you. If it could have like gone any worse, it would have involved me breaking a leg. That's what it would have took. An injury to make that race get any worse than it already was. So, I don't know, man, like from my hobbies in general, my boxing hobby, which is an obsession, my motorcycle, hobby, which is an obsession. Last week was a tough, tough, tough week. And I really like when I got back from that enduro, it was a lot of the same feelings that I had, after I sparred that, literally fucking 2 days prior, that Friday. I was having the same thoughts, the same doubts, the same voices were creeping into my head saying, dude, what are you doing out here? Like, you're too old for this. You don't belong doing this. Maybe racing isn't for you, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just a bunch of fucking horse shit that I was allowing to creep into my head. And I had to kind of, talk myself off the ledge a little bit and just know that there are always going to be tough fucking days, you know? And and like right now, if right now I just want to talk to all the novices out there, all my newbies, okay, all my fellow rookies, all my fellow fucking novices who are new to their sport. Okay, this is for you. I'm right there with you. Whatever frustrations you're having, I get it. I feel it. I absorb them. I acknowledge them. Man, I am right there with you. And they fucking suck. We're in this shit together. All we can do is just keep working, keep moving forward, fucking stay the course. And all of us are going to get better collectively. All right. That's that's all the advice that I can give on that front is just keep fucking moving forward. And I think like what Tank had told me, um, in between rounds last week, when he essentially said, "Hey, just calm down. You're not at their level, and you know, don't be afraid to acknowledge the progress that you have made. You know, put this shit into perspective. Okay, we all learn at a different rate. We're all out there working on different things. We're all trying to get better, and we're all going to have bad days. We're all going to have off days. I just happen to have two of them fucking back to back in my, respective fucking obsessions. So it was a little frustrating for me. Um, Yesterday sparred more. It was kind of a spur of the moment spar. Typically, we don't spar this early in the week, but we were lucky enough. And when he said, when I heard coach say, get wrapped up, and then he pointed to, four of us, five of us, four of us, and said, and you guys get your headgear on. I was like, fuck yeah, let's fucking go. Let's go. I'm on the fucking Redeem tour right now. You know, this is the Redeem tour, like the Redeem team with Team USA. I couldn't wait to get back into that ring. And I didn't even care if I got beat up. I just wanted a chance to work on the things that I need to work on. All right. And did I get beat up? Yeah, I got beat up. Did I get knocked down? Fuck yeah, I got knocked down. But I got back up and I kept fucking going, and I needed yesterday. And I feel like overall I did better yesterday than I did last week. The way I ended that last week, I was not happy with. Um, but the way I ended yesterday, I felt better. I wasn't as dejected. Okay. And I got some good feedback. LA gave me some great feedback. Tank always gives me great feedback. Coach Vince always gives me great feedback. Smoke always gives me great feedback. Um, and I look forward to the point where I'm at a higher level and I can start traveling with those guys to other gyms and then full on fucking sparring, other people that I don't know from other gyms. I'm looking forward to that day. And every time that I think I'm ready, get a rude reminder that I am not quite there yet. I think I'm getting a little bit closer. I'm definitely getting a little bit closer, but I'm not quite there. My defense is not quite there yet. But hey, fuck it, we're getting there. Keep moving forward. I'm going to acknowledge the progress. I have to be better about acknowledging the progress that I have made, and I would hope that all of you out there who have adopted whatever your hobby is, whether it's running, whatever, I hope that you are at least taking a moment at some point during the week to acknowledge your progress. You have to acknowledge you fucking have to acknowledge your progress. All right? And I'm going to harp on this more in the future because it is just as important for me as it is for you. Okay? All right. Uh Back to the Desert 100 real quick. The final revised standings were done. They posted the results, but they were unofficial. They have now been made official, and the placement that I gave last week, not accurate because all the teams, so you can do this race with in a team of two. So one person does the first lap, another person does the second lap. All the team people were mixed in with the individuals. So my final place, drum roll, Out of 922 entries or people who started the race, I finished 204th, which is in the top 22%. I could not be more fucking happy with that. Like, I'm literally over the fucking moon with that shit. That was unbelievable. I feel like for someone, I haven't even had a dirt bike for 2 years. Excuse me. I haven't had a dirt bike for 2 years, but like I say, I'm obsessed and I ride and I ride and I ride and I ride and I ride. And I've definitely gotten better. And to finish in that top quarter and almost, crack the top 200 out of nearly 1,000 people. Uh, for me, that's as good as a win. You know, considering the amount of risk that I'm not willing to take, I'm pretty much over the fucking moon, and I'm counting that as a victory. So right now, you're listening to the 2024 Desert 100 winner, the unofficial winner, the unofficial winner of the guys who are in their late 40s who refuse to take big risks. That's me. I won that race. That's the race that I won. I don't take big risks and I suck through the whoops. And yeah, I still got in that top quarter. And man, I'm just I honestly, so I keep the on my phone, I keep that web page up that has the fucking the results posted, and I mean, this is totally fucking stupid. Like every couple days, I'll just go and look again just to make sure that my name is still there at 204th, and I'm just like, oh yes, I'm like yes, just makes me happy, makes me so happy. Um, all right, I do want to talk a little bit. This whole episode has been a lot of boxing and a lot of motorcycles. I would be an absolute idiot if I did not fucking talk about some MotoGP. This past weekend, they were at COTA, is what we call it, COTA, the Circuit of the Americas down in Austin, Texas. First of all, shout out to Joe Roberts in Moto 2 with a second place finish. He's the only American in MotoGP, Moto 2, Moto 3. He's the only American in that paddock. And it's awesome. He's having a great year. I think right now he's second overall in the championship for Moto 2. And if he keeps this up, he's going to find himself on that Trackhouse Aprilia next year in MotoGP. So I'm pulling for him. Hey, fun little story about Joe Roberts. So when I was road racing, and this is a long, long, long time ago, I raced in what's called WERA a lot. It's WERA, Western Eastern Road Racing Association. So they have like multiple different regions across the country. So I raced in WERA West, which was like Miller Motorsports Park out in Salt Lake. We raced in Vegas. We raced in Auto Club Speedway. And then we would do Buttonwillow. So it was, I was on the road a lot, traveling around, the western part of the country, racing bikes. But Joe Roberts was a little kid, and he was racing like these little GP, like these little 125 or 250 bikes or some shit. I don't really know for sure. But he was a prodigy, and he was just killing people back then. And he would take my fucking scooter, okay, my little Yamaha Vino, my little 125 Vino scooter, and he'd be just doing fucking wheelies all over the place and just slamming the front end down until finally one night I was like, Joe, dude, I go, easy on the scooter. I ride that thing to work. Like, I can't have you breaking it. and, and I remember he kind of looked at me and was like, oh, he was like, sorry, I didn't mean to. He goes, hopefully I didn't break it. I was like, dude, you're good. I go, just no wheelies. I'm talking like full fucking 12 o'clock wheelies on this fucking scooter. And he's just cruising around the pits. And it was, so hey, That's my Joe Roberts story. He was a great kid way back then, and he's a great young man now, and it's so cool to see him having so much success. But that MotoGP race was unbelievable. And do we want to know why? Who wants to know why? Raise your hand out there if you want to know why. Okay, I'll tell you. Pedro motherfucking Acosta made that race unreal. It was awesome. Right from the second those lights went out and that race started, from third, he gets the whole shot. He led like the first 3 laps, 4 laps, somewhere in there. Martin was trying to pass him, and Costa was cutting back and repassing. He was so exciting to watch out there. That whole race was just an absolute dogfight. Mark Marquez even hit the front for a little bit before he had some brake problems and he ended up crashing out. Acosta overall ended up finishing second in the race. Maverick, who almost got taken out into turn one at the start, and from pole position, he dropped back to at one point 11th place on that first lap. And he came storming back through the field and ended up winning. Pedro, the 19-year-old kid out there, I mean, he's a young man, but he's a kid, okay, finishes second, and Bastianini finished third. Like, it was just such a cool race, such a cool weekend. All the races were awesome. Moto 3 was cool. Moto 2 was awesome because Joe Roberts did so good. And then, I'm telling you right now, if you aren't watching MotoGP, or if for some reason you think that Formula One is where it's at, get the fuck out of here. Formula One is the most boring form of racing. The coolest thing about Formula One is like the cars when they're in the pits and they do close up, video footage of how cool those cars are. But they're not even running the V10s anymore or the V12s. Not even, I think they run fucking V6s. Like, they don't even sound like they used to 10, 20 years ago. They're just not. And the rate, nobody passes in Formula One. Nobody. Like, if you get a shit start, you're done. You're not winning. Like, I understand the allure. Like, Drive to Survive on Netflix did is such an amazing job with that docuseries. They did such an amazing job. And what did MotoGP get? They got some stupid fucking shit that Amazon produced, and it was awful. It was not good. So hopefully, fingers crossed, okay, with Liberty Media buying, essentially they bought out Dorna, they're buying MotoGP. Uh, hopefully they, hopefully they will do a better job at marketing. Hopefully they will push it more, onto the American fan base and get it more out into, our market and this country. It sucks they only come here once a year. They only come to Austin, and then they'll go to fucking Spain, 3 or 4 times in a season. But they're only coming here once, and hopefully that changes with Liberty Media now owning MotoGP. So again, if you're not watching MotoGP, you should be. Go on. They have a video pass. I don't know how much it costs. I can't remember. Honestly, I don't even care. Uh, it's like, it's regardless of how much it costs, it's fucking worth it. The amount of content that you get, that isn't just the races, it's well worth the money. But I think it's also broadcast on TNT Sports in this country. If you're not in this country, I believe BN Sports, they used to have it. I don't know if they still do, at least like in the UK or in other parts of Europe. But I don't know. Go to fucking YouTube. Just type in MotoGP Just watch some highlights. There are some races that are on there you can watch. Um, check out MotoGP, check out World Superbike, watch Moto America, in this country, now that season's about to get started here pretty quick. Um, you know, racing is so much more than just Formula One. If you like to see people fighting, passing, elbow to elbow, bumping into each other, I don't like to see crashes, but they're exciting. It adds drama to the race. When somebody crashed, like when Marquez crashed out of the lead this past weekend, talk about fucking dramatic. When he took the lead, I was like, oh shit, this race is over. Like Mark is back. Marquez is back. It's taken him a little bit to get used to the Ducati. And when he took the lead, I was like, he is back. Well, unfortunately, he crashed. He didn't get hurt, but talk about a dramatic, emotional moment. Like that whole place went fucking crazy, you know? So you just get awesome personalities, you get great racing, whatever your brand, wherever your brand loyalty lies, whether it's with Yamaha or God, can I just say how bad the Japanese bikes are right now? Oh my God. The Hondas, the Hondas are the worst bike on the grid, and it's not even close. The second worst bikes, the Yamahas. I mean, it's bad. It's so bad. They have the most concessions. I mean, does anyone know what they're even doing? What is Honda doing to make that bike better? I mean, I think they had one. I think Joan Mir or no, Luca Marini was the only Honda finisher. He was it. Of the 4 Hondas, he was the only one who finished. And I think he was dead fucking last. Zarco crashed, Mir crashed, Nakagami crashed. It's so bad. I feel bad for Mir. I feel bad for Luca Marini, who last year on the Ducati was fucking fighting for wins, scoring podiums. Uh, you know, he was unreal on that Ducati, and I don't blame him one bit for taking. If a factory is going to offer you a ride, you take it. If you're on a satellite team, you're not making that much money, and you do have a shorter window as far as your career is concerned. Um, so if you can get the money that a factory is going to pay you, which is a lot more than what a satellite team is going to pay you, outside of whatever your personal sponsors are, I get it. I get why he took it. I get why Quattararo re-upped with Yamaha. They're fucking paying him 12 million euros a season to race that turd of a fucking bike. Now, hopefully, whatever conversations took place behind the scenes, hopefully Yamaha's moving in the right direction. But man, it is bleak. Those Japanese bikes, it is bleak. And honestly, the series is better when Honda and Yamaha are strong. It just is. Right now it's so Ducati and KTM heavy, and now Aprilia. Now, Maverick, he's won the last 2 sprint races, and then he just won the actual Grand Prix, the full lap, the full distance race on Sunday. So you know, Aprilia's right there. They're right there with Ducati. Who knows what kind of trouble Aprilia is going to start causing people. Okay. And the way Acosta's riding, yeah, he's on the Tech 3, the gas team, but they're on KTM's and he's fucking crushing it. And I don't know what Brad Bender's issue is. Normally he's right there fighting for podiums. He'll be back. He's had a bad couple weekends. Um, I think he's still by far KTM's best racer, but Acosta's given him a run for his money. And, between those two, they're going to be fighting for wins as well. So fucking come on, Honda. Come on, Yamaha. Like, get your fucking shit together. Get back up to the front. Quit killing your riders, man. these guys are just getting dejected. Like they just look so down and out, at the end of every single race because all they do is crash out because those bikes, that Honda just does not work. Just doesn't work. And there was hope. The preseason testing, there was hope for that bike. And it's like, it's just gone now. They showed at one point, they showed some footage of Marini in the garage after the race. And dude, he looked so dejected. Like I felt so bad for him. I feel bad for all those guys. They're all very likable guys. I can't sit here and say I know any of them, but just from a media standpoint, um, I they seem like nice people and they're hard workers and they all want to win. And it sucks when talent gets wasted on bad equipment. And that is the case right now. We have two former MotoGP champions who fucking one can't even sniff scoring a point, which means you're out of the top 15. Joan Mir, former world champion, he is just getting beat up from the feet up on that Honda. Okay. That RC 213 is just beating his ass week in and week out. And it sucks. Fabio Quartararo, former MotoGP world champion for Yamaha, he's just not, and it looks like he is absolutely pushing that bike to its absolute limits. And he's still a second off the pace, and it's not a talent issue. If he was on a Ducati, he'd probably be leading the world championship. If he was on a KTM, he'd probably be winning races. Hell, if he was on the Aprilia, which it was rumored that's where he was going to be going, to the factory Aprilia team next year, who knows what he would be doing? If he was on an Aprilia right now, who knows how fast he would be? But I guarantee you it would be a hell of a lot faster than what he is on this Yamaha. That M1 is just not a good bike right now. And it's closer than the Honda, which isn't saying much, but it is. So, look, my whole point for all of this, go to YouTube, check out MotoGP, go check out World Superbike, go check out Moto America, subscribe, support, check out all these riders. Just go watch some of that content. I promise you, you will not regret it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We all know what that means. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Wherever you are, I hope the weather's nice. You can get outside, get that fitness in. But even if the weather's shitty, you can do some workouts in your own home. You don't need much. You can do push-ups, you can do sit-ups, you can do squats. Find a doorway. You can do some pull-ups. You can do yoga. There's so much that you can do without equipment. There really is no excuse to not be bettering yourself physically. So I hope everyone has a great day. I'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, I will talk to you later. At Jake Brown Pod on Instagram, on Twitter. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for your support.